project 25 of this course. So in this video we are going to be creating a progress bar by just using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So if you click on this next button, so it will now fill this area and it will now select this second one, and if you click on one more time, so it will now select this third one, and same will goes to fourth one. And here you can see now this button will be disabled. That's because we provide a little bit of JavaScript in there. So if you now click on the previous one, so it will now go to the previous side right here. Okay, so this is what we are going to be building by just using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So without wasting any further time, now let's jump right into our code editor and write our code. All right, so welcome to the 25 project of this course. So I'll just write like O25 and then the name is like progress steps. Okay, inside this folder I'm going to create three files like index.html, HTML, and then the next thing I'll do is I'll just create a new file, give a name of like style.css, and then the third file will be app.js. Okay, so now let's just zoom in a bit so that we can see our HTML a bit better, and then just write a progress step, and then link it with the CSS and also link it with the JavaScript. Save it, hide the meta, the Facebook, and then right click on it and go to the open with the live server and remove their previous project. Alright, so now we are good to go. For HTML, we are going to need a few things for this one. So we are going to be creating a container. Inside this container, we will have another div with the class of progress, and then container. Okay, inside this progress container we would have another div with the class of just progress and also the ID of progress. Underneath there we are going to have a few circles, so I'll just write like a class of circle, and the first one will be active as well, and we will just provide one to it. And now let's duplicate it a few times. Okay, so this one will be also circle, so now just remove these actives from there, and now let's change this one to 2, this one to 4, and this one to 5. I guess we don't have any 5, so I'll just remove this fifth one. Okay, so now we are good to go, but we also have to just provide two buttons in here. So I'll just write a button and give a class of btn, and it will be like a previous, duplicate it, and it will be now next one. Okay, so both of them will have the classes of btn, and this one will have the ID of prev, and this one I will have the ID of next. Save it, and that's going to be it for the HTML. So now let's jump right into a CSS and get to a styling. Alright, so for a styling we are going to have to first of all remove these resets. Padding will be 0 and margin will be also 0. Box sizing will be border box. Save it, and that's going to be there. Alright, so then we have to just declare a few variables in CSS, and then we have a primary color, and it will be now set to RGB. Come on, it won't allow me to have any shortcuts. So then 55 and then 55, and that's going to be that. Then we have to declare a new variable, give a name of like secondary color, and it will be now equals to hashtag E0E0E0. Okay, so now let's jump right into our body. So I'll just write a body of font family. You can choose whichever you like. Display will be flex, justify corner will be center, align items will be center, and flex direction will be colon. Okay, and then the next thing I'll do is I'll just provide a height of 100 vh lowercase, and then overflow will be by default hidden, and then we have a margin of 0. Background will be just a linear gradient, so I'll just provide a linear gradient, and now here we can choose a linear gradient. I've already select one, ff3cac, and then comma, another one will be 7, add 4, and then b at 0. Okay, and the third one will be 2b at 6c5. Okay, so that's that. So now let's save it, and this is our linear gradient. You can choose whichever you like. Linear gradient, you can find a lot of different kind of gradients, and the name is a bit weird like gradient, but shout out to them as well, because I found this gradient from this website, so you can also search for your own if you want to. Anyhow, so I'll just close this project. The next thing which we have to do is to select our container. So I'll just select my container right here, and then I'll just write a text align of center. Save it, everything is center. Alright, so the next thing which we have to do is to select our progress container, which is right here. So I'll copy this progress container from there and paste it right here, and then use a display of flex, justify content will be not center but space between, save it, and it's looking like that. And then we have to just provide a position of relative to it, and margin bottom, and then we have is like 30 pixel margin bottom, 30 pixel margin bottom, and max width will be 100%, and then we have a width of 350 pixels. Save it, and this is how it looks like currently right now. Okay, so the next thing which you have to do is to just provide a little bit of before selector. So I'll just write like progress container, and we have or before. So now let's select that, and we have a content of nothing. Then we have a background color of war, secondary color. Save it, and it's not showing any color whatsoever, so I guess I messed up a bit. Let me just copy this color name, and I guess that was fine. Color you cannot see because we don't have any content whatsoever right here. So now let's add some things. So I'll just write a position of absolute, because the other one was position relative, so this one will be position absolute to this relative right here, because we're working on a before selector, so that's why. All right, so that was it about a position absolute. So then just write a top of 50%, and then the left will be not layered spacing, but just the left will be 0, and then we have a transform of translate y, and it will be minus 50%. Okay, and then we have a height of 4 pixel, just a 4 pixels. We have a width of 100%, a z index of -1. Save it. So this is what the line looks like right now. Okay, now let's style or progress. So just select my progress, and now let's select that. Inside this progress, we are going to be providing a background color to it, is like war primary color, and underneath this primary color I'll just also provide a position of absolute to it, and then top will be 50%, and then left will be 0%. Transform, not origin, just a transform will be translate, and here in this case we are going to be working with the x-axis, so minus 50%, and height will be still 4 pixel, and width will be 0% in this case, and z index will be just -1. And then we have transition of a little bit, not timing function, transition of 0.4 seconds is. Save it, and this is how it looks like right now, because we don't have any transition to work with. So this is how it looks like right now. Okay, so this is our progress bar. So now let's select our circles right here, so all of these circles. So we are going to be just writing our circle right here, so it will select all of the circles. So I'll just write a background color to it, so it will be like totally white, and then we have a color of 999. Save it, and this is how it looks like. So now let's just add a bit of padding and border radius for it, so I guess that's gonna be there. Anyhow, so let's just provide a border radius of 50%, and then width will be 30 pixel, and just duplicate, and height will be also 30 pixel. Display will be totally flex, and then justify content will be center, align items will be also center, and border will be 3 pixels solid war, and that secondary color right here. And then we have a little bit of transition for it as well, so like 0.4 second ease, not 5 but 4 second ease. Save it, and this is how it looks like currently right now. Okay, so that was about circles, and I'm thinking I missed something. Okay, so it should be not translate x, it should be translate y. Okay, and I just realized that I've already made a mistake on a HTML. So now let's go to our HTML and then cut both of these buttons and paste it here underneath that div. So save it, and this is how it looks like right now. Okay, so now let's jump right into the JavaScript kind of classes. So now let's select our circle, and when it's active, so we want to just provide a border color, come on, border color of just a war of primary color right here. Okay, so when it's active, so it will now gives us this kind of color, and the first one is now active. Where are you? So that's why it's giving us this color right here. So if you remove that, so it will now just remove that color from there. Okay, so the next thing which we need to do is to just style our buttons. So I'll just select my button, and then background color will be just like war, and then primary color, and then color will be totally white, and then we have a border of 0, and then we have a cursor or pointer, and then we have a font family which will be inherit now, and then we have a padding of 8 pixel and 30 pixel. 8 pixel from top and bottom and 30 pixel for left and right, and then margin will be 5 pixel, and then we have a font size of 14 pixel 7, and this is how it looks like our button right now. Okay, so the next thing which we have to do, if our button is active, so we want to just provide a transform of scale, so 0.98 will be fine. And the next thing which you have to do, if our button is disabled, and so we want to just provide like background color of var secondary color, and also the cursor will be not allowed. So now let's jump right into our JavaScript and provide a little bit of interactivity to it. Alright, so first of all, we would need to grab a few things for the JavaScript. So the first thing which you have to grab is like a progress, then we have to grab our prev button and also our next button, and finally we have to grab our circles. Okay, so starting from the first one, which is a progress, so we are going to be just writing like const progress, and it will be now equals to document.get element by id, and that will be now equals to progress. Save it, and this is our progress. Let me just see, and here we provide id to it, and now we selected it. Okay, so the next thing we have is like const prev button, and it will be now equals to document.get element by id, and it will be just a prev. Duplicate it, and here this one will be next one, and this one will be next btn. Alright, so now we are good to go. And the next thing and the final thing which you have to grab is like circles. So you just have to provide like document.query selector, or so you want to get all of the circles, so which is these circles right here. So copy it, not circles but just a singular circle. Alright, so now let me just log there to a console like progress, duplicate a few times, and this one will be now equals to prev button, and this one will be set to next button, and this one will be set to now circles. Save it. Now let's open our developer tools, and now here we get our first progress, then we have our previous button and next button, and we also have this node list which is like these circles right here. Okay, so we are good to go right now. So let me just delete these, and also these buttons, I mean like those comments from there. Alright, so now I'm gonna just create a variable given name of like active index, and it will be now equals to 1 right here. Okay, and now let's create a function given name of like update UI, and it, as the name suggests, that it will be able to just update our UI. So now let's just take our circles and iterate over through it by using a for each method, and then we have like a circle, and then we have an index of that circle. Okay, so now let's grab both of them, and now let's check if index, and this index we are talking about, if this index is less than active index, which is this index right here, if this index is less than this index, so what do we have to do? We just have to add a circle class list dot add that circle, that active class to these circles. Okay, if that's not happening, so then we have to check our else block, and now just remove that clauses. So just write like remove, and then just provide active to it. Save it, and nothing's gonna happen because we don't use this function anywhere. Okay, so that's that. And now also underneath this circles iteration, we have to just create like const actives, and it will be now equals to document.query selector all, and we want to check like if everything is active or not. So then we have to select our progress bar, and then we have to provide a style of width, and it will be now equals to this formula. We have like actives, or not index but just actives. We want to check the length of it, and we want to -1 from it. And so now we have to just wrap that, and we have to divide that on a circles, and then we want to check the length of it, and length -1, and then just wrap that in brackets as well, times 100, and then plus just this percentage mark right there, and then we have our condition right here. So if check the active index is equal to 1, so then we have to just write like a prev button will be disable, and it will be now equals to true. Okay, and then we have a else if block, and we can just check like active index is equal to circles dot length, so we can have like next button, it will be now equals to disable, and disable will now equal to true. And now let's check the final condition, like the else block. Now we have a preview button, and now let's check the disable is false and duplicated, and then the next one will be also false. Save it. Alright, so this was it about a UI update UI function. So now the next thing which you have to do is to add event listener on the next button and the preview button. So what do we have to do? The first thing which I'm going to do is select my next button and then attach this add event listener to it, and now let's click on it. Okay, so then we have to just write like active index, and now let's increment that, and then just check like active index is like greater than circles, then we check the length of it. If that's true, so we want this active index to be equal to the circles.length. Okay, and then we also want to call this function which is that update UI, and now we call that function right here. Save it. And now if you click on this next button, so here you can see it's now updating the UI right here. Now our button is disabled. So if you click on the previous button, so we didn't attach that event listener to the previous button, so now that's going to happen right now. So now let's just attach that add event listener to this previous button. So I'll just write like preview button and then add event listener, and it will be now equals to also click. And now let's fire this function right here, and active index will be now decremented. And then we have a if active indexes is less than 1, what do we have to do? We have to just write like active indexes is now equal to 1. And finally we have to update our UI and call this function, and now we are done. Okay, so now if we click on the next button and if you click on the previous, so here you can see this is disabled right here because we just have selected one item. So if we select like 2, 3, 4, and now this one is disabled. So if I click on the previous, so here you can see both of them are now enabled. So if I just click on that, so here you can see the line will goes up and like so. Okay, so that was it about this project. So if you guys don't know about Git and GitHub, so feel free to skip this video and jump right to the next project. And if you guys do know about Git and GitHub and want to push your code into your GitHub accounts, so this is what I'm going to do right now. If you want to join, so feel free to join. So let me just open my terminal. Git status will be this out25, git add will be everything, and then git commit, and then let me just write a comment which will be like progress steps. And then there's my comment, git push everything to the main. Okay, so everything is pushed to the main branch. So now let's refresh our browser, and now let's check our O25 project. Alright, so here's our progress steps right here. So if you click on the index.html file, we have all of this code for that project. And if you click on the app.js file, so we have all of this code right here for the app.js file. And if we click on the style.css file, so you can also have all of this code right here. Okay, so I guess that was it about today's video, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.